Evolution of representative democracy. From the roots of our political system in ancient Greece to the writings of Enlightenment thinkers such as Montesquieu and Locke to the principles outlined in the Declaration of Independence, our representative democracy has emerged as a distinct republican form of government. The origins of Athenian democracy came from the premise that governmental rule should be that of the many rather than the few. In its purest form, a direct democracy would have every citizen attending a town meeting and voting on every issue with the majority prevailing. Because of the size of the country, this becomes impractical and works only on a limited scale, such as the classic New England town meeting where, for instance, a town's budget is approved. Enlightenment thinkers proposed that a democracy should rely on the consent of the people. They also felt that there were natural rights that could not be taken away by the government, such as life, liberty, and property. In drafting the Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson felt that these principles of unalienable rights should be incorporated. They were also included in the Constitution. The individual became the central focus of government policy. Such concepts as equality, freedom, and order became the driving forces of our democracy. The measure of democracy became open and free elections. In order for a democracy to succeed, these elections had to be open to all citizens. Issues and policy statements of candidates had to be available to the electorate. Citizens could form political parties to advocate policies, and elections would be determined by a majority or plurality. Obviously, our constitutional republic in its early days did not meet the criteria. Slaves and women were not given the right to vote. There were property requirements, and the state legislatures determined who would represent the states as senators. Even today, we still have an electoral college which determines the official outcome of presidential elections based on the vote of electors rather than the direct vote of citizens. Today, the test to determine whether our democracy is working still relies on the way the individual determines the final fate of who runs the government and how policy is determined. Through linkage institutions and sovereignty, individuals must have a forum and a vote to determine their elected officials. Guarantees of voting equality through one man, one vote representation, the recognition that the size and makeup of congressional districts should be as democratic as possible has achieved this goal. Amendments to the Constitution created direct elections of senators, voting rights for freed slaves, women, and 18-year-olds, the elimination of poll taxes, and legislation such as the Voter Right Bill have accomplished this. Participation in government and politics is another indicator. In addition, a free media that informs the electorate creates an atmosphere of increased involvement by citizens. Government itself must be responsive. It must respect minority rights even though its elected officials were chosen by majority rule. Individual freedom must be respected and is guaranteed through the Bill of Rights. Court decisions such as Tinker v. Des Moines have reinforced the concept that the First Amendment is even applicable to high school students. Finally, government itself must operate on the basis of consensus and compromise. Otherwise, public policy, the measure of whether government succeeds or fails, will not be implemented. During the Bush administration, the cry of gridlock was heard because a Republican president had difficulty achieving his legislative agenda because there was a Democratic Congress. After the Republicans assumed control of Congress in 1994, a divided government again dominated American politics. In 1995, the Republicans tested a weakened president by forcing a government shutdown caused by a budget stalemate. This backfired when public opinion turned against the GOP. A complete turnaround occurred at the conclusion of the 104th Congress prior to the 1996 election, when both the President and Congress reached compromises regarding health care portability, the minimum wage, and welfare reform. At the start of the 105th Congress, a bipartisan agreement on a balanced budget was reached. However, this has disintegrated in the current Congress.